Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for dialing in for our Ask Me Anything session for today. We still have some folks dialing in, so we're going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to finish doing that, and then we will be back. All right, we are just a couple of minutes past the hour, so thank you everyone again for joining our Ask Me Anything session for today. My name is Carol Kennedy. I'm an account manager with ApplicantStack, and I am joined today by my colleagues, Ellen and Brandon. They will be helping today just with some questions and managing the presentation today. We are discussing our Indeed integration, so existing items with that integration and some upcoming things that we are excited about. So we'll go ahead and just, we've got a presentation to share with you, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. Those questions can be anything ApplicantStack related, and then we'll be sure to do our best to answer those for you. I will mention this again, but we do have our next Ask Me Anything coming up on October 12th, and we have a recruit webinar, which will be a start to finish overview of our recruit product on October 24th. So we'll go ahead, we'll remind you that a little bit towards the end of the presentation today, but just wanted to mention those are upcoming. We'd love to see you there as well. With that, I'll go ahead and hop into my presentation. We've got some exciting changes that we'd like to announce coming. We don't have a whole lot of detail right now. There will be more information coming soon, but we have several new things to mention that are coming. We have an Indeed Recruiter extension, which is a free Chrome extension. You can use Indeed's most popular tools without leaving ApplicantStack. Responsive Employer Badge is coming soon as well. That will show on your jobs in the Indeed search results, and will indicate that as an employer, you are engaged and committed in responding to job seekers in a timely fashion. ATS Sync, you'll be able to seamlessly transfer candidate data between ApplicantStack and Indeed. That will help you reduce manual data entry and help ensure compliance. So again, we've got some more information that will be coming out with regards to that soon. Another change that will be upcoming beginning on October 1st, everybody will be required to have an email address associated for each job posted to Indeed. What does that mean as far as what action is needed on your part? There is no action needed. That is something that is being pulled from our system. So you won't have to enter that in as you're posting your job. You won't have to go back to prior jobs and enter that in. That is an account level property that is being pulled from ApplicantStack. So again, there's no action needed on your part. Why is that change happening? That allows Indeed to ensure jobs follow trust and safety rules. They have an AI that will check for a valid domain. They're just looking to make sure that you are a valid organization. This is a legitimate job. Unfortunately, with all the scams happening these days, there are some people looking to collect information that is private that they shouldn't be having. So Indeed is just doing their best to cut back on that and really protect candidates looking for jobs. Okay, and that will also help Indeed identify and properly classify job content. What happens if an email address is not provided? If it's not provided, or if it's generic, such as Gmail, Indeed has other things that they will be looking for. But if there is no email associated with the account, organic and sponsored jobs will unfortunately not be visible. What will happen with that information? Indeed will not use that to contact you. It's not used for any type of communication from Indeed to our customers. A couple of other Indeed items we do want to mention. We have an Indeed Apply integration that can be turned on in the background of your system. So if you're interested in doing that, just please let us know. We can help you with that. We have found that Indeed Apply increases the likelihood of your job being clicked on by 30%. Indeed Apply simply means that if your candidate has an Indeed profile, it will automatically populate information. It's going to save your candidate some time as they're applying to your job, and that is why we see a little bit better response rate with apply through Indeed. Indeed sponsored jobs. Sponsored jobs, there is an algorithm on Indeed's part that will give your job a little bit more visibility. That does come with an additional cost, but sponsored jobs will have a 4.5 time more likely result in higher versus a non-sponsored job. Okay, so that is sort of a summary of our Indeed integration, what's upcoming. We're excited for these changes. Once again, be on the lookout for some information coming your way soon. And with that, we'll open up the floor to questions. Again, that can be anything ApplicantStack related, recruit or onboard. And then Brandon and Ellen are going to be assisting with that today as those questions come in. So I will hop into my demo account and we can show you around as those questions come in. Ellen,
okay. Yeah, we have one question. We have a question here. So one of the questions is, so what's the difference to the account, to the business when they sponsor on Indeed directly versus when they sponsor on Indeed through ApplicantStack?
Right. If you post to Indeed through ApplicantStack, the benefit is candidates will come back into your ApplicantStack account. They can all be managed in one place. There should not be any difference between posting to Indeed directly versus posting through ApplicantStack as far as number of candidates or anything of that nature. Brandon, I believe you run across the situation a little bit more than I do. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, dollar for dollar, you're getting the same amount of sponsorship if you sponsor through ApplicantStack and use our sponsored integration, or if you go directly to Indeed. So if it's 6s that way, then there's a large benefit from a convenience standpoint of doing it through ApplicantStack, because then, as Carol said, those applicants are going to flow directly into your workflow, and you can run that workflow the same as you would any other candidate so that everybody has the same experience.
Great, thank you, Brandon.
Okay, another question about Indeed sponsorship. How do we sponsor on Indeed through ApplicantStack? I think they're wondering where that feature is found within the product.
Sure thing. When you go to your job that is in question, you'll come to your Launch tab. We've got a little handy dandy pop-up that hopefully you should see with a little bit more information about that. But let's show you. You will need to post to the organic postings first before you can sponsor it. And we've got a quick little note here. Everyone should be able to see Indeed sponsored in their account. If you don't, please let us know. But before sponsoring your job, it does have to be posted for up to 8 hours. for your job to appear in the organic feed and for the sponsor job link under actions to be available to sponsor your job. So here is that Indeed sponsored. And since this is just a demo account, I don't have access to that to show you, but you will go ahead and sponsor that. You will see a quick little summary for this budget that you have designated. You should anticipate to see X amount of candidates come back for that. And then from there, you'll designate your budget, you'll go ahead and post, and then it should show on your jobs table. We have a column here for sponsored, and that will show you which jobs have been sponsored on Indeed, which is helpful to know. Did you see an uptick in candidates upon sponsoring it versus just organically?
Okay, great. The next question, looks like we're sticking with the Indeed topic. If I have a sponsored job through Indeed on ApplicantStack, and I would like to update the job, do I need to re-sponsor that job?
I don't believe so. Ellen, Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you edit the job, it may take some time. There's a feed that polls every so many hours. It should automatically update for you.
That's my understanding too. If you've already launched the job, it's live, you want to change some wording inside your listing or perhaps change the title of the job, maybe update the location, then you just go back into the job, go to the launch tab, and then you make that change. And once that change is entered, then you relaunch the job to the same job boards, including Indeed, that it was already on, and that will push out that update. And like you said, Carol, it'll take maybe 4 to 8 hours, is my understanding.
Yeah, I think it's about 4 hours, but
Okay.
I think it vary a little bit, but correct.
And that's a good point to make, is our feed does go out about every 4 hours. So if you do make a change to the job description or location or any other field, it will obviously be modified within ApplicantStack. But if you go right out to Indeed or any other third-party job board, give it a couple hours before you see that modification take place.
Okay, the next question is, I don't know if we know the exact answer to this question, but when we sponsor on Indeed, what exactly are we paying for? Are we paying to show higher on search results, clicks, or completed applications?
Right. If you were looking for exactly what's going to happen, I would perhaps contact your Indeed representative. They can give you a little bit more detail, but I believe it has to do with it comes back to the top versus dropping. With organic posting, it will drop over time. So if your posting's out there for several months, it will come down, and candidates will have to scroll and kind of search for it a little bit. So with sponsored, I believe it either comes back to the top. I'm not sure if it's highlighted, or your Indeed rep should be able to provide a little bit more information on that. But it does give us the benefit of enhanced visibility for your posting.
Yeah, I would add that you mentioned the Indeed rep, Carol. I think that's really important for businesses to have success. Indeed is the largest job board out there, definitely for entry type level, blue collar type level jobs. And so having a good relationship with your Indeed rep can be extremely helpful, because they're going to know all the nuances of how their algorithm works and how you can optimize your listing to show better. When you do sponsor, traditionally it's been you're paying per click. So if they click on your job, that would deduct from the budget you had set. But recently, Indeed updated the way that worked, and now what we pay for is applications that have been started. So once somebody clicks on your job and then they begin the application process, that's when your account is credited with having received a new applicant. So it's probably a little bit more per person in that sense, because they're further along the process. But the hope from Indeed, from what I've heard, is that they're more quality candidates because they've actually started that application. So that's what the budget goes to. And if you're not getting enough applications started, then Indeed's going to show your listing higher in the search results until more people start your application to even out with your budget. Okay, we've got a couple more questions. Does the date the job was created matter? Should that be updated? If so, how often?
Right. I would think from your own reporting standpoint, you would not want to change that. Just if you want to track time to fill or something of that nature, what I have done, I was reading ahead. You can go ahead and refresh or repost your job. And I've got a quick article here. If you click on our Help Center, the white question mark in that orange box in the upper right, and go to Help Center and type in refresh. We have a quick article here with some information on how to do that. We would not recommend doing that more than every 3 months or so. If you do it too frequently, Indeed can flag your account for, I don't want to say abusing that policy, but if it's any more frequent than that, they can certainly flag you for that. So there are some quick instructions here on how to refresh that. That should bring it back up to the top.
Okay, thank you, Carol. The next question we have is about onboarding. So when using onboarding, once a candidate completes a form and submits it, is there a way for them to go back and edit that form if they made a mistake? Or does the form need to be reissued so that they can complete it correctly?
I'm going to answer this question yes and no. So let's go into our onboard portal. Let's come into an example hire, and let's come into the new hire portal. So if we click on view portal, we can see for John Nicholas items that have been completed and that are still outstanding. You will see this little pencil icon. So to a degree, let's say the form has 2 parts and maybe the employee has filled in their part, the employer has not yet finished their portion. I believe as long as it's only 1 step back, that edit form is available. If that is no longer available, in that case, you will have to resend it for them to complete. But to a certain point, it is able to be edited.
Thanks, Carol. And I would just add there's a reason for that. Say it helps protect you with any type of audit. So if somebody starts on July 1st and they fill out their I-9 incorrectly, you still want to have that original I-9 in its original form just to show that you did your process and that it was done on time. And so then if you discover a month later that something's incorrect or needs to be changed, then you would want that second I-9 showing the new date with the updated information to supersede the first one. But you still want to have that first one to show that it was done prior to hire.
Right, that's a great point, Brandon. Thanks for adding that. Okay, next question.
Okay, the next question is, what are some caregiving titles that are getting more people attracted to that you have seen? Well, that's an opinion, I guess. I don't know. Carol, have you seen certain attractive job titles for caregivers?
I will say Indeed shies away from anything that is flashy in the title. So bonus, hiring bonus, start today, exclamation points, things in caps. They tend to shy away from that. So I would avoid anything like that. But gosh, Brandon, do you know?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. So in Indeed's own documentation, they say that the job title should be reflective of a job title that you might see on a resume. So you wouldn't put, that you were hired as a caregiver and got a $500 signing bonus. You would not put that on your resume. You would just say that you were a caregiver. You wouldn't say you were a caregiver working nights. You'd probably just say caregiver. So that's the rule of thumb. And the reason Indeed wants that is because they want a clean, searchable interface for their candidates to continue to attract candidates. If it gets muddied with too many catchy phrases and clickbait, then it becomes tiresome to the users and they go to other platforms. So Indeed will enforce that. It's not enforced consistently, so you might have been using a not so best practice for the last 2 years and gotten away with it, but eventually it does catch up to people from what I've seen. So just the simple job title, and then in the listing is where you can put your make yourself stand out with your culture or your sign-on bonuses and that kind of thing. Now, caregiver is unique because state by state it's different. Some states you need to be a CNA or you have an HHA or a PCA. They have different titles, so you might want to capture those different titles. But by and large, you can usually do that in just one job ad.
And I'm going to qualify, Brandon. Indeed does want you to post one job title per job. That didn't come out quite right. What I'm trying to say is don't launch a job with the job title being RN, LPN, PCA, all in one job title. They don't like that. They'll want you to separate that example out into 3 unique jobs.
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
Also, if anyone else is on the call that has found success with different titles for caregivers, go ahead and put that in the questions or in the comments, and we can share those with the rest of the listeners. The next question is, if I would like to send a questionnaire to a candidate not hired yet, how do I do that?
Okay, I'm assuming that you have Recruit in addition to Onboard, or at least just Recruit. So let's go ahead and hop back on over. And let's show you our library. So you can create questionnaires to prompt for information. It could be for your candidate, it could be for a third party, questionnaires for your internal team to complete. So an interview evaluation form or a reference check form, something of that sort. But yes, you can certainly create questionnaires. Let's go ahead and hop into just some general questions. Why not? Are you authorized to work in the US? Do you have a degree? And so forth. So any information that you need to gather, it can be a yes, no, it can be a text box, multiple choice, radio buttons to be entered. And then what you would do is go ahead and send that to your candidate. You can send an email, include your message. We'd like to have you complete this further information, and then you can attach that questionnaire here. They'll have a link and they can come in and complete that information. So yes, we have questionnaire functionality in Recruit. We also have it in Onboard. So in Onboard, it might be, it's not a specific form with an official formal signature. Maybe you just need to know shirt size or preferences for Office. Do you prefer Apple or, for your computer? So that could be used in Onboard as well.
Hey, Carol. Sorry, I'm jumping in here again. One of the things that maybe some folks on this call would be interested in is when you brought up your questionnaires in your library, you have VEVRA questionnaires and you've got the CC305. So if any folks on this call collect that information and aren't doing it through ApplicantStack, those are forms that we create, and if they're not in your questionnaire library in Recruit, we can import them in for you, and you can submit a ticket in order for that to happen. And then just like Carol showed you how to send a questionnaire to candidates, you could send those questionnaires. They could be part of your initial application process, and or you could trigger a questionnaire at a stage change.
Correct. Yeah, so as you're setting up your job, you can also link a questionnaire to that job. So let's come in our account admin job questions, and then you can simply create one new, or you can add it from your library. So thanks
and
for...
again, the beauty of that is you can report out on that too if you need that data.
Great discussion here. Next question is, toward the end of the month, should we expect to see low flow of applicants? There's a lot to unpack there, I think, Carol.
There is. It could be a number of factors. It could be the industry you're in. I know the holidays tend to slow down, at least from my recruiting days quite some time ago. But yeah, holidays just really depends on kind of what's happening. I don't know about end of the month versus beginning of the month. I've heard weekends versus beginning of the week, end of the week. So it really just depends on when candidates are available. They have some time. People are busy during the holidays, not really looking to make a change sometimes. So that's a big picture kind of question. So
yeah, I think that might be a good question for an Indeed rep. My understanding is if you do set a budget for, if we're talking about sponsored jobs, then Indeed attempts to spread out the spend over the length of your budget. So if you set a recurring monthly budget, they're going to try and spread that out. But that doesn't mean that you might not see a spike one week of a lot of applicants applying for that job. In that case, then they're going to drop your spend the rest of that month until you renew in your monthly budget cycle. So, and like Carol said, there's seasonality, there's weekly trends, there's when school's in session, when breaks happen, weather can impact it. There's lots of things, and those can vary from location to location. So it's really tough to say. Okay. Last question is, what are some good strategies to determine what our Indeed sponsorship budget should be?
sure. I would probably rely on that predictive indicator that Indeed is providing. They have done a lot of research and have a lot of formulas and algorithms that they use. That's probably the best bet to determine your budget. You can always increase it later if needed. So it may just be a question of what is your budget, or how many candidates am I ideally looking to enable to be able to find a hire out of how many candidates do I need to see. So a couple of factors will go into that as well, but you should be able to adjust depending on what happens.
Carol, if you go to the Help Center and search for Indeed sponsorship integration, there's a screenshot, I believe, in that article showing what that campaign page looks like. And I think it shows the predictive analytics there. While you're searching that up, I would just add, yeah, it can change so much from region to region. It is a competitive type environment. So if you're in an industry that's where you have a lot of competitors hiring for the same job that you're hiring for, there may be your competitors who are spending money, and you may have to match that or exceed it in order to get enough traction. When you set a budget, as Carol's showing here, you set that budget number. Again, if we use the reoccurring budget as an example, and say you set $300 as your monthly reoccurring budget, we'll make the math easy, $10 a day. You're not committing to spending $300. So if after 1 week of that campaign, you're getting a lot more candidates than you can handle, well, then you can drop that budget down to say 200, and then it'll redo the proration of about how much Indeed will be using up each day. So you can always adjust that campaign. You're not committing to spending a certain amount. Unless you just set it and forget it, then you're going to be spending about that much.
We've got another question here, and that is an onboarding question, Carol.
Okay.
Can a hiring manager add documents to a hire's profile?
I believe the default is they cannot. That is a recruiter administrator functionality.
Right.
Our support team, there may be something that can be changed on the back end to allow for that. Just keep in mind that there may be confidential information that comes back in, social security number, date of birth, that maybe you don't want your hiring managers to see. So there may be ramifications surrounding that, but our support team can certainly help you with that.
All right. Thank you, Carol.
Looks like one more just popped in. One more question just came in. When you have an applicant on AppStack on multiple times for the same job, are we able to connect them together or delete the ones not needed? Oh, I think they're talking about duplicate applicants. So if one person applies for the same job twice, can those be merged in some way, or what's the best way to handle that?
Yeah, so in our system, they will remain as separate applications. So let me come over to, I've got to go back to Recruit. Bear with me. Let's come to our Candidate tab, and there should be a notification. If your candidate is in the system twice, you would see a notification up at the top in red, letting you know what other jobs they have applied to. So you can hover over that, you can double click on that to see those other jobs. You may want to add a note to the candidate profile. You can make that global so it shows across all applications for that candidate. But unfortunately, it does not, quote unquote, combine those separate profiles. I was always taught not to delete information out of the system. So if you need your trail, what other jobs have they applied to? Perhaps you've got an opening 6 months from now. You come back and see that that candidate applied. Maybe there is an opening that is a fit for them now. So I would discourage deleting unless you have a strong opinion. If your HR legal team is okay with it, there is the ability to delete candidates, but I would probably hesitate to recommend doing that.
And this question, it says multiple times for the same job. So if it is, to backtrack, in ApplicantStack, the default is that a candidate will not be allowed to apply for the same job multiple times with the same email address. So if you are getting an applicant applying multiple times for the same job with the same email address, and you want to eliminate that situation, please go ahead and submit a technical support ticket, and a technical support team member can change that property in your account.
Okay, thanks for catching that, Ellen. That was for the same job.
Yeah, good point.
Happen because the email address would filter that out from happening. But right. I did find, here's an example of a duplicate.
And then Sue Chapman says, scroll down. If you get back into the, yeah, it'll show duplicates down at the bottom as well.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you, Sue. So just a little bit more information down there, as you see, similar at the top of a duplicate record.
And I would add, there is a feature within ApplicantStack. It's not used very often, but that is to require candidates to create a login to apply. So they have to create a username and password, creates an account for them, and then they can apply. Again, rarely used have I seen it, but that can be helpful if you want them to be able to easily apply for multiple jobs within your organization. And it would also eliminate duplicates as well.
Carol, another question is, how do I add another location for my jobs?
Okay, so let's take
field. You know how the accounts come set up, and I think there's jobs that are in, I don't know, 2 or 3 locations are in the configuration. The question is, how do I add another one?
Sure. So I have opened up the job board just so we can see what that's referring to. So we have a location for our job indicated. or at least we would if it had been filled in. But let's go ahead and show you where to do that. So that will be located under your setup, under, it could be your photo, it could be just a little Head and Shoulders icon here, setup, and that is under configure, and it should be under job fields. Here is the location. So we can simply edit those options. Right now, mine is set up as a drop down. So we can add an option. We can reorder these options. We can alphabetize them, but this is where you would simply add that option. And if you wanted it to show on your job board, you can designate that as well. So let's go into that. Field options, Durham. You should see an option show on job board or not.
And Carol, pop back to your job board if you don't mind, because one of the beauties of having a drop-down field type is that you can filter those on the job board, which if you've got a lot of jobs, it makes it easier for your candidates to find jobs of interest. So if Carol clicks on the downward facing arrow next to the field department, move over one to the left, Carol. Yeah. So candidates could click on just finance jobs, just operations jobs. They could click on finance jobs in Raleigh, North Carolina, if the location field were built out a bit more. So this is what's called filtering on your job board. And if that's of interest, it sounds like, a broken record here, submit a ticket. It's a very easy modification to make on our part. And actually an account admin can make that modification as well.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, looks like we had a few more filter in here. How do I utilize the score feature? How would this be helpful to me as a hiring manager?
Sure. I believe that would be limited to your user that is setting up the job. So your recruiter or admin user would be setting up the job. As they're doing that, they will see the scoring tab on that job. You can create a rule. Again, you may not be able to see this, but your recruiter can set this up. We can see, let's go to our county manager questions. So that will open up those questions. Let's say a degree is required and the candidate says no, they don't have one. That can be a KO or a knockout. And then we can assign point values. So maybe based on increasing levels of experience, we can assign increasing point values. If somebody is too experienced, maybe we want to not give them points for that. So there's that. Then, in addition to the resume capabilities, so you can score based off of phrases found in the resume, or that can be a KO as well. And what that will do, let me come back to my candidate tab. I'm going to open up my filters just a little bit to get some more results. Here is that score column. So I can see my KOs are in that reddish color, and then here are candidates with their affiliated score. So maybe the ones with a little bit higher score are going to be a better fit for you. You can review those first. KO, I would go ahead and just review them just to be sure that's legitimate, and you can see what question it wasn't, knock them out of consideration. But that should help you. I know you can get hundreds of candidates for a job, so that should help you narrow down your focus on who you want to focus on first. Okay,
So we've all been recruiters in our past lives, and those qualifying questions I think are key. And scoring those, and I think was it Sue who asked that question? Because again, it gives you that quick visual as to who you're going to spend time with and who you're not going to spend time with. And we all know that non-qualified candidates submit their resumes. So qualifying questions are just a time saver, and I would say just applicable with every single job.
Okay, we got another question. If a candidate is termed, how do we term them in ApplicantStack as well?
Okay, so in both Recruit and Onboard, it's going to work primarily the same way. So we'll just focus in Recruit. we have our stage column. I did just back it out just a little bit, and this is where we have our stages of candidates. You could put them into a termed status, terminated, no longer an employee. You can customize that. I don't believe I have that set up in my system. Oh, here I do. So you can simply click on that stage and then put them into a terminated stage and submit that. Okay, and seeing our workflow is set up, we can have notifications go out that that change happened. Probably, I don't know if we want to send a message. I think they would probably already know. In that case, we don't need to send an email at that point, but you can see the workflow actions that will happen. And so you'll simply change the stage, same as onboard. And once they are in an inactive stage, they should not be able to access the system or come back in.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Can an admin remove the number of options a hiring manager in delaying an email? We don't want managers delaying emails longer than 1 week.
Okay, I'm going to defer to our support team on that. I'm thinking probably not, since that is a system setting. Those are standard options that should be available for everyone. So my gut tells me probably not, but you could certainly submit our or submit a ticket to our support team to see if that's an option.
Yeah, that may be something that you might just need to address with internally with your team as far as how you're wanting them to utilize the system. But as Carol said, you can reach out to technical support. I think there's one more question. Is there a way to have an email template that are only available to the admin and not to every user?
Every user. I'm thinking recruiters have access to the library. I'm looking, I don't see an option to make that private. Some items in the system have an option to make it private, so hiring managers don't see it, but recruiters and admins do. I don't see that here. So I'm thinking that my inclination is recruiters and admins will be able to see that. That may be another question for support, but that probably is a system setting as well, so.
Okay, looks like another question trickled in. My app stack looks different from what is displayed.
Yeah, that could be due to your user access in the system. So we just mentioned recruiters and admins, for example, can see items in the library. So if you can't, that may be why. You may be a hiring manager in the system. So you wouldn't have access to reports or to the setup. So that may be why your system looks a little bit differently. It could be that your system had some customization to it as well. So could be a couple of things.
Mm-hmm. And Carol, if you go back to your home tab,
Mm-hmm.
The stages that you have here are the stages in your demo account. But as Carol said, ApplicantStack is highly configurable. So you can add stages if this is where your account looks a bit different. You can add stages. We absolutely need the new stage because that's where candidates fall when they successfully apply. But maybe you have 2 interviews, or maybe you have a subject matter expert phone interview or something like that. You can add stages there. And again, that might be why your account looks a bit different as well.
Okay, I think that wraps up the questions. Back to you, Carol.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Brandon and Ellen, for your help with questions today. Wanted to loop back. Our next Ask Me Anything will be on October 12th. It will be about onboarding documents specifically to start, and then again, we'll open up for questions. And then our Recruit webinar will be a start to finish overview of our Recruit system. So if you have new users or you just need a refresher, we would love to have you attend that as well. You are more than welcome. That will be on October 24th. Okay, if you need a reminder, up in the upper left of your homepage, we do have those announced. So we've got a quick registration here as well.
Carol, you got to thank you.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we love thank yous.
Great job, Carol.
Oh, wait, there's a second thank you as well. All right.
I will take it.
Yep.
Thank you. We love connecting with everyone. Thanks for your questions. And don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can do to help.
All right. Thanks, Carol.
Take
Well,
care.
have a great week.